We all have a history behind us. We have a life that we have lived up until this point with certain experiences, certain lessons that we've learned, certain tastes of what the world is like. And all of that culminates to bring us many different conclusions about the way that life is and about the way that we ought to be living. And oftentimes we don't even realize that we've made these conclusions. Of course, you don't realize that because if you believe something to be true, you simply believe it to be true. You don't realize that things could be a different way. And this is what's often behind so much of people's suffering, is that they hold certain conclusions about life that keep them within a paradigm that is suboptimal for their own quality of life, their own peace, their own joy and happiness. Let's use a very straightforward example here. A lot of people have a belief, you might be one of these people, that suffering is inherent in living a life, at least to some extent. And I would challenge you on this and tell you that that is simply false. Suffering is not inherent in being alive. It is a symptom of resisting certain unpleasant emotions. It is a symptom of being out of alignment with what we truly want for ourselves and our authenticity, and many other obstacles in our character that are getting in the way of peace and joy. But 99.9% of people suffer, at least to some extent, myself included. I'm not saying that I am immune to suffering. I know sometimes my awareness lets me, or lack thereof rather, has me resisting certain painful emotions, and I suffer because of it. But on other days, I can experience pain and be fully aware of it and not suffer in relation to it. So I know this to be true, that suffering is not inherent in life. It's very likely, but it is not inherently necessary. And a lot of meditation, a lot of honing your awareness and consciousness will show you this yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. But if you never lived in an environment where this was communicated to you, where everyone around you suffered and very clearly resisted and repressed their emotions and lived out of alignment with their authenticity, then you would just think that it's inherent to life. And the reality is that that is what most of humanity is doing on planet Earth today, in this very moment. So it makes complete sense that you would draw that conclusion about life. This is just one example. There are many other macro and micro examples of conclusions that we make, assumptions even, that we make about life, how it has to be, and the way that we need to be living it. When a lot of the times these limitations, these things that you hold as harsh realities aren't actually the case. You don't need to live a life of suffering. You don't need to work a 9 to 5 if that's not the kind of environment that aligns with your soul. You don't need to be in resistance to life. You don't need to be grinding against the flow of life. You can actually work with it and live a life that you feel like is one of floating down the river rather than trying to paddle upstream. Now, sometimes it's going to be inevitable that the water in that river gets a little choppy, but you can still float down it and navigate your way downstream peacefully, and it'll bring you to wonderful places rather than feeling like you have to be paddling upstream the whole time. I hope that metaphor is clicking for you. Now, what I'm getting at here fundamentally is that questioning what you hold to be true about either yourself as an individual or life itself is very valuable and will be a big catalyst for your growth. Because when you question the conclusions you have, you see the framework that you're operating within. And oftentimes that framework is maybe this big, but it could be this big. And in reality, it doesn't need to have any boundary at all. You could be operating in a much more expansive framework, one where you don't have any limitations on yourself or on the way that you think you need to live your life. Now, oftentimes these limitations, these conclusions that we make, as I said at the beginning of the video, they come from our past. They come from a culmination of experiences, lessons, and just overall conditioning that we have accumulated in our lifetime. And oftentimes our conditioning is what dictates our values in a bit of an inauthentic way. Like maybe you were told one thing from your parents or your culture throughout your whole childhood that you now hold to be true, but in a bitter way, right? Like maybe you hold a conclusion about people that people just can't be trusted. And this really hurts you, right? It doesn't feel good to think this, but you've been told this your whole life. People can't be trusted, so you don't trust anyone. You have a conclusion that everyone is out to get you. Now, if you question this, if you take a look at your conclusions at life every now and again and put them up to the test of logic and reason and just overall contemplation, you'll recognize that maybe that's not the truth. Perhaps there are a lot of people out there who will stab me in the back, but maybe there's also a lot of people that will show me I can trust them. Maybe I should give people a chance, and people who show me their character is one of trustworthiness can earn my trust, and I can work with them and therefore have more opportunities in life and more connection with my community and with other individuals. And then you take that new possibility that you are now open to and you put it to the test, and you recognize, you know what? That value that I had about not trusting anyone, I can throw that away now. I actually can trust some people. I just need to learn that I can trust them first. And now you have a whole new framework. You have a whole new paradigm, an expanded paradigm, one that will serve you, that you are now going to live your life in. And this is very, very valuable. It's very important to question our conclusions and our assumptions about life. Oftentimes we don't even realize the things that we take for granted as true are just assumptions and conclusions that we've been conditioned to make. And whenever you recognize, that's something that I've just kind of adopted, that's a belief system that I've adopted, it's worth contemplating. Even if it's something that seems so minor, it could be holding you back in a big way. It could be posing a limitation on you, that without that limitation, you'd have more opportunity, more space for living an authentic life, and more room for joy and peace. And then you can get to the core of your true values. And everybody's values are different, right? Like the statement, life is blank. Finish the statement. You could probably answer that in 4 or 5 different ways that feel very authentic and true to you. And try to do that exercise with a positive connotation, right? Try to finish the life is statement in a positive way, in a way that serves you to see life that way. Not in some kind of like delusion, fantasy land. Life is all sunshine and rainbows and nothing bad can ever happen. No consequences exist in life. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying try to have a positive outlook and finish that sentence in 4 or 5 different ways. And the answer for you will be completely different than the answer that your neighbor might have. But both can be true. Life doesn't have to be for your neighbor what it is for you. You can feel that life is a very different thing. And you operate based off of the values that you hold about life, about the way that you ought to live, and what's most aligned for you. Because everybody's different. Everybody has a bit of a different character. Everybody's got a bit of a different flavor. So everybody's going to hold different values. Even when they've stripped away all the conditioning and all the limiting beliefs, you might still hold completely different values than someone else. And it actually wouldn't even be healthy for that other individual who thinks and feels differently to operate with your values potentially, because they're what's most aligned for you. Life is full of great adventure and mystery waiting to be discovered. Someone else might not feel that way. That might feel completely out of alignment for them. And it wouldn't be healthy for them to go and try to explore the world when they really just don't care to. But for you, maybe that's something that you need to do. Maybe that's something that would make your soul feel very alive. So that's a bit of a side note on values and the uniqueness of values. But I just want to encourage you to get to the bottom of what you genuinely hold to be valuable and true about life once you strip away all the layers of conditioning that don't actually serve you. And this will evolve as you grow and develop as a person and move through different phases of life as well. So don't feel the need to be rigid in your beliefs, in your paradigms. In fact, the more open-minded you are, the more these are going to flow and move. The more open to change you are here, the more in alignment you're going to be with yourself, with the way that you genuinely want to live. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. All in all, it is very valuable to question your beliefs and your assumptions and conclusions about life. Maybe some of them are true, but maybe you recognize some of them are self-imposed limitations that you've adopted from your conditioning and would be better off dissolving in order to expand your paradigm about yourself and about life in general. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. And real quick before I go, check out the description below for 2 links. One is for a free life audit workbook. It's a great tool. I personally use it. I highly recommend it. And the other is for a free coaching call with me. So if that interests you, check out the description below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.